Have you ended up with many items in your home and you can't even remember buying? Do you have many brand new, never worn clothes with tags on in your cupboards? Are you over shopping on a regular basis and are you worried about money? Then this is the podcast episode for you. We have invited financial therapist Carrie Rattle to share her expertise about shopping addiction and how to overcome over shopping.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here's your host, Ingrid Jansen.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid. If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find the fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get involved in conversations related to this podcast, it all takes place in our free Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm and supportive community. Go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more.
Thank you so much for having me, Ingrid. It's
Hello,
a pleasure
Carrie.
to be
Yes,
here.
a very warm welcome. I'm very delighted that you're here. I was lucky enough to chat with you last week preparing this podcast episode. And ever since then, I've been buzzing to record this episode with you because I think you have so much amazing information to share. And listeners, you might wonder, but in the last couple of months, you've done a podcast about shopping addiction. You've had Brad Nelson who talked about overcoming debt. Carrie, trust me, is going to bring it all together because she is, I think you're one of the experts in this topic, aren't you, Carrie?
There certainly aren't too many of me in the world, and I definitely work with a large number every single year. So whether it's expert or not, I definitely have lots of experience.
Brilliant. So I've got lots of questions lined up because I've been diving into everything that you have on your website and everything. But let's start at the beginning. What is compulsive shopping or a shopping addiction?
Sure. So most clients will self-identify as shopping addicts, overshoppers, or compulsive shoppers. And compulsive shopping is different from impulse shopping. So I think it's fair to say that most people will probably impulse shop at one time or another.
Yes.
Compulsive shopping is when you end up shopping so much that you are harming yourself in some way, which then becomes a behavioral addiction. So compulsive shopping comes from within, Ingrid. So if you're impulse shopping, you may be walking by a store, or you're scanning your social media, you see one thing you like occasionally and say, oh, that's pretty cool, let me investigate. With compulsive shopping, you start to get an urge, an itch, vibrate. You might feel anxiety inside your body. You might feel excitement inside your body. And you need to shop to help manage that body feeling and to help manage the emotions that are going through you. Quite often, a compulsive shopper also gets super excited just even thinking about shopping. They get a high. And then others get the high when they actually buy. So there's a difference. It's internal versus external in terms of the triggering and where it's coming from.
That's interesting because many of our listeners know that I'm not a shopper at all. So if you put me and Leslie next to each other, Leslie loves to shop. She loves to browse. She buys herself new things on a regular. She's very good at decluttering. I'm immediately going to add this. So she kind of keeps it in balance. I don't really enjoy shopping, but I actually am now I'm hearing to what you're saying, and I'm like, I actually impulsive shopped last Saturday because I was gonna went with my daughter to the shops. We don't go to the shops a lot at all. And I actually bought a blanket for my downstairs sofa on impulse. I wasn't planning on buying it. Now we have it. We're super happy with it. But it was an impulse. But like I said, I don't even go to the shops in the first place because I feel that what I buy is enough and I don't need a lot. So I understand the difference now between impulsive and obsessive. That's like compulsive. That's interesting. So is compulsive shopping the same word as shopping addiction? Can you kind of interchange them or are they different?
So it's interesting. Some people who love to shop will voluntarily call themselves shopping addicts or
Mm-hmm.
I have a shopping addiction, but it's in their minds, it's perceived as a positive way. It's like, I like shopping, you know. So those who come to me refer to themselves as shopping addicts, but for them, they can't control their shopping. So shopping addiction is used both ways, certainly in North America.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, compulsive shopping, however, is a more clinical term, more specific. And it is very clearly at a stage where you are harming yourself.
Mm. Now, has there been any research at all about this? Because I think if people say, oh, I just love going to the shops, they kind of smile a little bit. And of course, we've been, since the 60s, marketing messages have been thrown at us as sales messages. Buy me, I'm better, I'm great. So has there been any research at all about how many people are addicted to shopping?
Yes, there has. And it's approximately 17 million in the US alone. And I work with clients in Canada as well as, you know, in Europe and
Yeah.
Australia. So, and I believe it's understated for
Mm-hmm.
a couple of reasons. You know, it's perceived as the smiled upon addiction because if you shop, you're helping the economy.
Mm-hmm.
So what is wrong with shopping, right? So research has been conducted. Some research would suggest that men and women equally are over shoppers. Some research suggests that women are predominantly over shoppers. I believe if it wasn't equal between men and women before, it's becoming so. I think women more voluntarily talk about it because shopping is part of our identity. In
Mm-hmm.
earlier generational roles, that's what women did, right? To take care of the home, buy
Yeah.
clothes for the kids, that kind of thing. So I think it's higher than 17 million because a lot of people don't understand that they are at a level where they're harming themselves because they think harming themselves is having debt. But
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, Ingrid, only 50% of my clients have debt.
Right.
So you can harm yourself by losing time. You can harm yourself by being a different kind of role model for your child than you want to be. You can harm yourself because you're having conflicts with your partner. You can harm yourself because you start ducking out of work when you feel stressed because you need that fix. There are so many ways you can harm yourself that's beyond just money. And a lot of people don't realize that it's happening to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you said 17 million. I kind of fell quiet there for a moment because that's a lot higher number than I thought you were going to say. So you
Yeah.
say they're self-identified. So has there never been like research by anyone into this subject then?
There has been research, and more of it is becoming prominent. There is some great research, and I believe it was out of Germany. A lot of PhDs from the US, as well as Germany, as well as a couple of other areas, And all these experts got together and decided to identify what are the clear behaviors of the compulsive shopper. And I will actually give you the name of that research for your podcast in written form and an attachment if you think your clients would want it. So people are starting to clearly identify it and talk about what that looks like in terms of everyday behavior versus regular shoppers. So more and more research is coming out about this for sure.
Interesting. And has it changed over the years, you think? Has there been previously done research that can be compared to now? Or is it kind of a field that's not really been explored until recently?
You know, it's been growing. A lot of the research goes back to really even the 1980s, 1990s, when consumerism became more evident and things started to take off. There's more now, I believe, because social media and smartphones that allow you to shop online has allowed consumers to buy even more. So if their tendency was to overshop to begin with, it's now showing more frequently. And so I think the research is not only growing, but focusing on different aspects of it, like, you know, what might cause it, types of personalities, that kind of thing.
Yeah, interesting. So you have, because I looked on your website and you said I was a financial coach and now I'm a financial therapist and you specialize in shopping addiction. So how did you end up being a financial therapist? How did you end up here?
So I won't go through my entire history, but my purpose as a person since about the age of 13 has been to help women have an equal voice in the world. And so, you know, I went through a whole career trying to show that women deserved pay equity and, you know, job flexibility because, you know, they were caring for children. And after 30 years, I lifted my head up. We still didn't have pay equity. We're now at 82 cents compared to a dollar that a man makes. And I thought, well, crap, plan A didn't work and it took me 30 years. So what's plan B? Okay, I'm going to become a financial coach to help women manage their everyday money better so that even though they don't make as much, they can learn how to manage it. And then I met this wonderful woman, Dr. April Benson. We started talking about money behaviors, and I learned that she was a psychologist. She just passed away. And also, she was a compulsive shopper herself. So we started talking about this. I clinically trained under her. Her clients were just like my other financial coaching clients. They just had this compulsive behavior in addition. And she said, Carrie, I want you to buy my business. I want you to take care of it for me. And so here I am, clinically trained by a woman who was an expert for sure, who really cared about her clients and knew firsthand what it was like.
Yeah. And she has written several books, hasn't she? And you're kind of trying to almost keep the legacy of her and then, of course, your own whole body of work together to kind of educate and train and coach and mainly women. I've understood, but in your body of work, right?
Yeah, because, you know, compulsive buying, shopping is spending money, right? And is all this spending serving you well as a person? Is it helping you take care of yourself, save, retire, have enough money to give to charities that you want to and things like that? Or is it going to stuff that is really serving no purpose? And so bringing the two bodies of work together, they actually fit hand in glove. And April and I were really excited about that when we discussed it. And so I'm happy to bring this forward. And, you know, a lot of my clients have regular therapists, right? But therapists don't typically deal with shopping addiction, and they don't typically deal with money. So I plug a hole and I'm just part of the team to help with these two things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. So are mainly your clients buying clothes? Is that what you mainly see? Is that the big problem? Is that clothing? Or are there other categories that stand out? Because, I mean, in our work as professional organizers and declutterers, Leslie and I both have, besides the Declutter Hub, we run our own professional organizing business. We both have worked in thousands of homes with
Yes.
hundreds of clients. And we see, we see it's not only the clothes, it can be different things for different people. For some people it is shoes or handbags or things with labels or craft items or home accessories, the candles and the thing. What do you see with your
Yes.
clients? Is it mainly clothes or is it again an array of items?
So you covered it beautifully. I would say predominantly it's clothing and
Hmm.
then often bags. But it runs the gamut, right? Including books, including plants,
Yeah.
including artwork, um, certain books, like collections of books. So it really there's something for everyone, and quite often it has to do either with what they're trying to address, like self-esteem. So that might be where clothing really comes in,
Mhm.
or a need to belong. So when you think about it, collecting jewelry, if you collect a certain type of jewelry where you can talk in the community about it, you feel like you belong, like you know something about that jewelry like all the other people. And that's where it touches a different personal need. But you
Mm.
nailed it. It there's quite an expansion of certain items that can be collected for sure.
Yeah. I'm listening to you and I'm like, I'm really glad I'm a declutter expert. I could talk days and days about decluttering and organizing and not about stuff, but I indeed, it makes me happy when I can talk about decluttering. So I can imagine if somebody becomes an expert about jewelry in their community, they feel like, oh, I'm the woman in the know, and it gives you a
Yes.
certain status as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. And people are simply seeking that status through material items as
Mhm.
opposed to kind of going back out into the real world and earning status just by being who they are, the
Yeah.
wonderful person they are, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, do we know how people end up with a shopping addiction? Because, there it must be like with stuff, it's all the emotions that sit behind it. Is it the same for shopping addiction? I assume the answer is yes, but I would love you to tell more about that.
So you're right. Some clients have had trauma
Hmm.
much earlier in their lives. And others often associate shopping with something pleasurable through childhood. Maybe it was special time with mom or dad, maybe it was getting a fall wardrobe and feeling great about it. So whatever shopping meant, when someone starts to run into uncomfortable situations, then seeking something that used to make them feel good is a great way to sort of escape for a few minutes. So there are two parts to this behavioral addiction. There's the behavior, which is the more you start shopping, the more it becomes your go to, the more it becomes a habit. And when you think about it, habits don't require a lot of thinking. You just do, like brushing your teeth. So that's the behavioral side of it. And the addiction side is needing that dopamine hit. And just like any addiction, after a while, you may need more and more of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it starts with, I'm bored. Okay, maybe I'll just shop a bit. Then, okay, I felt good. last time I shopped when I was bored. Now I'm kind of lonely. Let me, just spend some time scrolling on my phone. So ultimately, it's repeat, repeat. It begins to become subconscious. And you get to the point, some of my clients, where they say they feel like they had a blackout, where they're at the shopping cart and didn't even realize they were shopping. They're about to check out. It's how subconscious it becomes.
Yeah. So they're just aimlessly wandering around with their shopping trolley, putting stuff in, doesn't even compute, it doesn't clock until they're actually some sort of wake up call when they're at the tills and like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember putting it in my trolley. That's how far it can go.
Yes, yeah, because, shopping becomes escape or um, a need to self-soothe or a need to take control back after a really bad day or week, all sorts of reasons that can drive us there to go shopping just for even a few minutes, like on a phone.
Yeah. I definitely have more questions about that. So, oh my gosh, listeners, I'm taking it all in. I have more questions for Carrie. Let's take a quick break and we're gonna come back soon. Hi everyone, welcome back. Yeah, I am absolutely like taking it all in. And during the break, Carrie said to me, Ingrid, am I not going on? I'm like, no. Share with us. We need to know all of this. We need to know because I want you to be able to go, do I have these feelings inside me? Do I feel this? Do I recognize this? Because then if you at least recognize it, you can actually possibly do something about it. But if you're even unaware, I think self-awareness is really, really important in this case as well. So no, Carrie, please keep sharing with us all the fantastic information. So we were talking about how do people end up with shopping addictions? It can be things from their youth. It can be loneliness, boredom, feeling stressed, feeling anxiety, a lot what we see as well when the clutter builds up in people's homes as well, obviously. So a lot of overlap about what you're sharing and what Leslie and I also know from having worked in cluttered houses and with clients who have lots of clutter, and that there's a lot of emotion behind it. It's not just shopping. Like the clutter is never just a clutter, and it's not like, oh, well, I've got a lot of clutter. Let me put it in a bin bag and declutter. It's the same with shopping, where you can't just go, oh, well, let me stop shopping. It's not that easy.
That's correct. I have many clients who have 2 or 3 formal degrees who will come to me and say, I know I'm kind of smart, but I can't take control of this. What is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, that's the rational side of us speaking, right? But you so correctly observe it's emotional.
Yeah.
And some need or a couple of needs are not getting filled in your life. And so shopping is becoming the go-to mechanism to try to do that.
Yeah. And what do you see the fallout is of having a shopping addiction? Because you said, only half of the people actually have debt. But what do you see happening with people who live in a home with a person who is addicted to shopping? What are the consequences?
Yeah, so definitely a common theme is partnership. The partnership is starting to fray. It may start to fray because the other partner sees boxes coming in on a regular basis, or the partner sees the credit card and it's mounting, and they ask the shopper to stop, but they don't understand that the shopper just can't stop. So it becomes, a simmering level of anxiety and mistrust, right, that builds in a partnership. And quite often there is financial infidelity, which means the shopper they may have their own income. So they may have a credit card that their partner never sees, and they are accumulating debt. It is not a surprise for me to see a client with at least $100,000 in credit card debt, not shared with a partner.
Wow.
And sometimes the partner finds out, for example, you go to buy a house, sell your house, buy a new house or first house. Well, your credit report is going to show that credit card.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are sharing credit scores to buy the house, it's one of those, oh crap moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but what's not understood is people think shopping is just frivolous. People think, shoppers shop because they're vain. It is so far from the truth, so far. And because it's an addiction, you need the high. And so it takes work to help put the pause between that urge
Mm-hmm.
and acting, while also filling what you really need in life, because you're not getting what you deserve as a human being emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you see also a lot of hidden purchases are clients honest to you about that? They're like, yeah, well, I just hit a couple of bags because I can kind of still get away with the credit card because it's not yet 100,000, but it's getting bad. So I'm just going to sneak some bags in.
Yes, yes. And I tell you, people are getting pretty brilliant about it. One guy would take his purchases to work, put them in dry cleaning bags, walk in the house with his dry cleaning over his shoulder. So, I'm just picking up my dry cleaning, right? So then all this new clothing is sort of injected in the closet. Or, a common one is somebody walks out and they're wearing something and, oh no, this isn't new. I just haven't worn it in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Right? Or yes, bags hidden in trunks of cars. Clients who, when they receive by box from, delivery, cut up the box in little pieces so that it can be thrown into the recycling bin and nobody knows what it was.
Wow.
It's amazing. They know they can't stop, but they also don't want to have that confrontation because it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, it's like it's all, the coins are dropping. It's like, it's really an addiction, isn't it? They try to masquerade it. They try to cover up. They know what they're doing is not right, but they probably just can't stop to do it.
Yes.
And
yes.
it has a massive impact on relationships, on finances, on not only relationship with your partner, but probably with your friends and your family. Do you see people who really go down that rabbit hole of shopping addiction, that their social circle becomes smaller?
Yes. Yes. Because what happens is that, let's say you have a bad day, Ingrid, and you're kind of furious about this bad day. My guess is you talk to a partner or a friend, you vent with someone, and they help soothe you, you feel better. It's like, okay, I've released it.
Yeah.
When you're an overshopper, you tend to go to friends and family less and rely on shopping as the support.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really help, because shopping helps you suppress what you're feeling, not deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more you suppress, the more you don't know how to deal with emotions, and the more you don't become emotionally resilient. So when you hit a crisis or something, you don't know what to do because you don't have confidence in having dealt with things before. So it can be very, very damaging.
Do you think that the shopping on the internet has made this problem worse? Or is it just that we know more about it now that we can compare? Or is it all of the above?
You know, it's a really super good question. We know that internet usage really bumped up over COVID, right?
Yeah.
I have talked with some clients who felt they came out of COVID over shopping, but were able to get a grip faster again. Others were on the brink before COVID and it just escalated. My guess is that it's more, because you used to have friction when you had to drive somewhere and find parking, depending on where you lived, and line up, right? Checking out and that kind of thing. There was a little bit of friction still involved in wanting to, cure that urge.
Mhm.
Now, when you can access internet and the phone, there's no friction.
No. No, I know. It's super dangerous. And of course, we all have our cards connected to the shopping. We get the
Yes.
email list that we are on, so we're getting bombarded by. So Leslie and I did a podcast about it. I said, just unsubscribe from the emails.
Yes.
Don't, if you have a basket with things, don't click on buy, leave it overnight and just have this moment of, but it's so easy
Mm. So
instead
let
of having to go somewhere, walk around, go
yes.
through things. You just click, click, click. Oh, is there a size 14 or 16 or whatever size you are 8? Yeah. Oh, that's the color I like. Click, 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 and boom. It's coming.
Yes, and the danger is sometimes because sizes vary according to brands. Some overshoppers will order two sizes, but because they're always moving forward, seeking the next high,
Yeah.
they forget to return the size that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So there are some compulsive shoppers who are just seeking, and not returning, which is where you guys come in too, right? Because you'll see
Yeah. Yeah.
some of that,
Yeah. I once helped a client just do a bunch of returns because it would
Yes.
build up. And she said, Ingrid, I know it sounds crazy that I need your help to do these returns, but by returning all this stuff, I've saved so much money that it was worth you coming into my house and helping me with this. Because,
Yes.
and of course, over time that I've been working with her, the shopping is far more targeted.
Good.
Because she's got a better idea of what she has in her closet, also for her children. So we've been managing but in the beginning, it was like, oh, wow, my job was today doing returns. But she was like, you've helped me so much because I'm going to get 800 or 900 pounds back. You cost me this for the day. So it was worth it because otherwise this stuff would have been in my house and I would have had to declutter it because I couldn't return it anymore.
Yeah, you and I are a continuum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You help and you help them see what they have, what they didn't use, what they do use,
Yeah.
and helps them target their shopping, which is brilliant, right? And even when their shopping is more targeted, if they can't stop, then they start entering my realm.
Yeah.
So it's like we're a fluid team,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I believe it. I believe it completely. So if people are listening to this and they're like, I think a lot of this resonates with me. What can they do about it? What do you do? If the listeners are out there going, yeah, I do that. I put stuff in my thing. I hide stuff from my partner. I've got that. What do you do?
So I have 4 tips that will get everybody started.
Okay.
The first one is to ground yourself. So what does that mean? Do something not very harmful by just calculating your time that you spend browsing and shopping every week. No judgment. right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are afraid of money. So that's why I'm saying calculate your time
Mm-hmm.
spent, because a lot of people are busy professionals with kids and like, who has time? So find how many hours you could be getting back. Second of all, if you're worried about overspending, give yourself a spending limit. Yep, sometimes you'll go over it, but if you have a spending limit, it makes you think twice versus if you had no spending limit, you would just keep on going, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And focus on people, not products. So if you want to give somebody something, give them a hug, give them something homemade, give them your time as opposed to giving them a product. So that's number one, ground yourself. Number two is shut out the noise. So you talked about this, unsubscribing, right? I can tell you that unsubscribing for an over shopper is really scary. It's like, but, but, what if I don't get this sale notification? Or, so it's like losing a friend. But here's what I would say to shut out the noise, everybody, take some of the emails that you get, the ones that you're not really close to, the ones that aren't your favorite brands. You can't even remember what you bought from this email. Unsubscribe from those. Start, because I can tell you, an overshopper has somewhere easily 50 emails a day. And talk about overwhelm and driving yourself crazy, like trying to catch up on your email. So unsubscribe, and also texts. And that personal shopper, if you happen to have one, you got to break up. I know you love them, but let them know when you need something, you'll get back to them. And your phone. Let's talk about your phone a bit. Do not take your phone into your bedroom at night. Even if you're worried about a teenager who has to call in, fine, put it outside your door and put the ringer on. People think that browsing and shopping at night is self-soothing and calming. It is not. It creates anxiety. It affects your sleep. If you can, when you walk in the door, put your phone down by a small table by the door and only pick it up when you need to respond to something. So it starts shutting out the noise and reduces temptation for you.
Mm-hmm.
The third, manage your stress in different ways. When you are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, halt. You are going to shop. So shopping, buying for yourself is not self-care. That's something that a lot of overshoppers think is. It's not. Have a bubble bath, take a walk, go hug your pet, call a friend, get your nails painted, whatever you want to do. Real self-care, because shopping is not it. And take a moment to have gratitude every day for what you do have. If you ate 3 meals today, you are probably better off than a large percentage of the population in the world. And then the fourth point is be cynical. There is a great website called Tina, TINA.org, Truth in Advertising. And there are some big brands that all of you will recognize that have misled the public in their advertising about whether they had sales or not, or entertainment videos where they didn't put hashtag ad in the video, and they should have, because it was all about selling a product. So I encourage everyone to think twice about when you're buying, is it really for you, or are you just making some big retailer more profitable?
Well, listeners, there you go. I love your top tips. Thank you, Carrie. I'm on board with all of them because we all have far too much stuff, and we rather want to spend it with our friends and our family and doing things that we love to
Yeah.
do. And all that over shopping creates so much work and clutter and time and energy to look at it, move it, take care of it, swap it around, declutter from your house at some point, while you could be doing all the things. And we always, a lot of people say, but I wish I could be crafting, or I wish I would be able to go on holiday. Well, if you curb that spending, you could do all those things,
Yes.
because you would have the time, the energy, the money to do all of it. So your 4 tips are absolutely brilliant. Now, if people are thinking to themselves, I've listened to everything, but I'm not sure if I'm overspending, and if I'm have a shopping addiction, you have a good tool on your website, haven't you?
I do. Yes. It's a very simple screening. And it's, 6 or 7 questions, so you can do it probably in 30 seconds. There are 2 of them you can download. One is more around how you think about shopping, and the other is more around how you behave in your shopping. And you can score them. It will give you an idea if you're close to being an overshopper. And I can tell you, most of my clients, the scores are typically 1 to 5. Most of my clients are at 5s and 4s.
Yeah, I did this because although I
Do you?
knew, yeah, of course I did, because I do love a little survey quiz thing tool. I'm like, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've got far too many ones.
Oh, yeah, you're good. You're not ever
I'm
going to
good.
need me, Ingrid.
So, what can people do if they're like, you know what, I'm fine, but my partner, friend, best mate, mom, neighbor, or anybody I know,
Mm,
they're I can see things are not going well there. How do
yeah.
you talk to people? How do you broach this subject?
Oh, very gently,
Mm-hmm.
because whether they are still in denial, they sort of know. They
Mm,
just aren't ready to face it.
yeah.
And over shoppers have incredible shame and guilt. And they know sort of what they're doing to you as a partner, but they just can't stop themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's approaching it very, very gently, having the discussion, having a talk about how could shopping be curbed, sort of one item at a time. So is clothing the issue? Okay, let's just talk about clothing. And what do you need help with to buy less? And if it's introducing money, like how the shopping is affecting the household income and expenses, sharing with the understanding that most over shoppers don't deal with money. Money is foreign. So you're sort of talking to them in a foreign language. Literally, pretend you're teaching somebody Japanese, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to be gentle about showing here's what comes in after taxes. Here's where all the expenses are taken care of. Here's what we have left to spend. And guess what? You by yourself are spending over 100%, but without judgment, kind of sharing, because then you start giving an overshopper learning boundaries and helping them with their behaviors.
Mm.
When you make them report into you every day, when you cut off their spending entirely, and I get it, if you're in incredible debt as a team, maybe you have to cut them off, but they still need help. But the more you cut them off, the more you restrict them, they're adults.
Yeah.
You are diminishing them. You are treating them like children. And ultimately, they will find some other way to rebel. So it has to be gentle, bit by bit. And the wonderful book that I use, which doesn't cost a lot of money, guys, read it yourself if it's your partner who's an overshopper first. It's To Buy or Not to Buy: Why We Overshop and How to Stop by Dr. April Benson. It will give you insight, and then share it with your partner and see if they'll read it, because that will let you know if they're interested in learning how to change their behaviors yet or not.
Absolutely brilliant. I have so many more questions written down, but I think we need to leave it there because my heart and my brain is full with all of the fantastic information you've shared with us, Carrie. Um, where can people find, if people would like to know more about you, find the tool, read, blogs, see some of your videos, where do people go?
Sure. I have a lot of video tips on Instagram at behavioralsense.com, and my website, which covers all sorts of different programs and just general information, as well as the fun quizzes we talked about, is behavioralsense.com as well. And I know you're going to have them spelled out below because I use the American form of behavioral, guys. So sorry about that.
And sense is CENTS, right?
Exactly. It's
Okay.
how you behave with your money, behavioral sense.
Okay, brilliant. Again, thank you so much. Listeners, wow. Has this podcast maybe made you question if you're struggling with this topic? Have you identified, actually, I'm good, or, ooh, I'm on a slippery slope here. I need to maybe curb my spending a bit, or, ooh, I'm much closer to what Carrie, her examples are giving me, and I actually need to do something here. We hope that this podcast was informative for you, that you've learned a lot, that you are ready, hopefully, to take next steps. Or maybe you're not, and maybe you're like, you know what, I'm going to start with reading the book that Carrie suggested. We'll put the link in the show notes as well, and maybe take it from there. But thank you for listening and for being here. Carrie, thank you so much again for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you. I have great compassion for all of my clients. And my lasting comment will be, there is hope.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.